Hello, I'm Janice Maddock with the Integrative Movement Institute and the Integrative Movement System. And I'm here once again to give you your workout of the week, or WOW, as we'd like to call it for fun. Workout of the week using the Integrative Movement System focuses on three really important things when you're doing exercise. One, that you maintain good joint alignment. This means your spine, including your neck, your shoulders, your hips, your knees, your ankles, all of your joints. We really want to make sure that you maintain good alignment while you are exercising. Two, B, for breathing. We want to make sure that you continue to breathe throughout your exercises. Breathing has a plethora of benefits for our body, and specifically when we're exercising, when it comes to maintaining or decompressing our body, so the load of the exercise doesn't start to compress us. Also, a basic fact, oxygen is the key to life, so we must continue to breathe. Breathing well also helps promote increased ability to stay mobile through this whole upper body and our neck. So if you're a person who tends to feel that upper back tightness or that low back tightness or pain, you struggle with headaches, learning how to breathe three-dimensionally, which we'll talk more about that throughout all these programs. Learning to breathe three-dimensionally is going to help create more mobility, less stiffness, less feeling of tightness. We like to say that if somebody tells you that they're always tight, they're telling you, I don't breathe well. Speaking from a person who used to live in a body like that and no longer do, or I don't live in a body like that anymore. The number one thing I've done and changed my life over the last 20 plus years is I've changed the way I breathe. And it has been literally life-changing for me and for our clients who use that as their go-to exercise every day. I'll talk more about that. The final principle of the integrative movement system and your WOW workouts is going to be control. So ABC, align, breathe, control. Control is going to be that aspect in which you continue to breathe and you maintain your alignment throughout the exercise. So how far you go into a squat is less important to us in this type of workout compared to, do you maintain your alignment of your neck, your spine, your hips? Do you maintain that alignment while you go into the squat? And at what point do you stop? Because that's the point you stop moving through the squat. If you have to compensate, that is a habit your body continues to use every time you squat, every time you sit, every time you bend. So part of our program, part of these WOW workouts, these WOW sessions are to help you groove new ways and better ways to move so that your joints feel better, so you're using less effort to do exercise or basic activities of daily life living, like going from sitting to standing. And we're gonna take a look at sitting as part of our session today. So let's go ahead and get started. Today, we're gonna focus more on some lower body exercises after we go through our assessment and our breathing warm-up session. So let's go ahead and get started with this week's WOW session. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do our assessment. We must know how our body feels before we start exercising, so we know that our exercises are helping or hindering our progress towards becoming more flexible while building strength. Those are two things that are possible to do together. And that's part of what makes the integrative movement system so amazing and the best way to really look at how somebody's moving and how to apply exercise to them, specifically to them and their needs. So let's go ahead. We must get a sense of how our body's feeling and moving. So go ahead. Your feet are gonna be about hip width apart, and just go ahead and close your eyes and just relax there and ask yourself, just take in some information from your feet. As you're standing there, what do you notice? Do you feel as though the weight is equally distributed across both feet, side to side equally on your foot? Or do you feel like the weight is more transferred to one foot versus the other, or a particular area of a specific foot, like the inside of your feet or the outside of your feet? Just get a sense of how you feel. Because if you don't feel centered through your feet, it means when you're standing, you're going to use a lot of different effort from different muscle groups just to stand. So just take that in. Now go ahead and bring those feet together. Place your hands just below your hip bones, keeping your feet flat on the floor. Go ahead and turn your whole body to the right, come back to center, and go to the left. Come back to center. As you repeat that, do you get a sense of the quality of the motion? Does it feel easy and smooth, or do you feel like you get stuck as you try to turn one direction versus the other? And does it feel equal side to side, or do you feel like you go further one direction or less the other direction? Now, with your arms at your sides, thumbs facing towards me, you're gonna keep your elbows straight and you're gonna bring your arms up overhead. And just get a sense as you do that, do the arms go up equally? Do they go as far? Is it the same amount of effort to lift one versus the other? Do you get further on one side, go one at a time, than you do on the other side? For me, my left side gets a little bit stuck. So if you have to bring your arm out this direction or bend your elbow to bring it all the way up overhead, that means you're compensating as you try to bring your arm up overhead. So you can see as I bring my arms up, my right one is easier to stay closer to my head, whereas my left one, not so much. So that's what I'm gonna take a note of. Okay, if you just saw a little flash through the screen, that was Phoebe the cat. She might make another cameo appearance as she likes to be on camera with the rest of us. All right, so we looked at our hips, we looked at our shoulders, we looked at our weight in our feet. Let's go ahead and check our neck rotation. So keeping your arms at your side, feet are relatively hip width apart. Turn to look over your right shoulder, come back to center and to the left, come back to center. As you repeat that again, do you get a sense that it's easier to move one direction versus the other? And is that motion smooth, or do you feel like you get stuck or it's kind of ratchety or stiff as you go one direction versus the other? And then finally, since we're gonna do a lot of work with that lower extremity or our legs and hips today, let's go ahead and check how we're standing on single leg. So if you need to, stand close to a wall if you don't necessarily feel stable on one foot. But we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna stand onto that right leg, lifting that left leg up and switch. And as you do that, get a sense of, does it feel more challenging to stand on one leg versus the other? Do your legs just easily float up? Or do you feel like it's a lot of effort? And do you feel like you have to go very far over to get the weight over one leg versus the other? So weight transfer side to side, effort to lift the legs, and just what does a balance feel like side to side? Good. Now we have a good assessment of how our body's feeling and moving. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our breathing. This session, we're actually going to do breathing in seated position because we're going to talk about sitting, since so many of us are required or need to do that for our work. So go ahead, grab a chair, particularly one that's stable. Unfortunately, mine is not going to be, but one is stable, and one where your feet can get flat onto the ground. Okay, so we're gonna have a seat in our chair, but sitting is really important. The manner and how we actually sit is super important. One other thing you may wanna have handy by you is your yoga strap or a long belt, something that you can use for part of our breathing exercise. So when we sit, what we wanna think about is, as I go into my chair, and we're gonna talk about this with our patterns today. As I go into my chair, do I bend here to sit down? Or am I more one of those people who, if I'm gonna sit down, I tend to reach back because I know I'm gonna fall back down into my chair? So when you sit, you wanna think about bending here at the crease in the front of your hips. And if you need to, it's okay to reach back, but perch on your seat. Once you're seated, I want you to think about getting on the widest part of your hips. This will help support your low back. So if you're somebody who really struggles with low back pain or SI pain, when you're sitting, this is gonna be really good for you. You're actually gonna come, for my ladies out there, it's not very ladylike, it looks a little goofy, but it's really important and it really helps a lot. You're gonna reach underneath so you feel that sit bone, and you're gonna pull it out and back. And you're gonna do that on both sides. So now you're gonna be sitting on the widest part of your hips to support your body weight when you're sitting there. Now we're gonna go into our three-dimensional breathing. Recall, when we talk about three-dimensional breathing, it means that our diaphragm, that muscle all the way around inside of our rib cage, the primary muscle that helps us breathe, moves three-dimensionally as we inhale and exhale. Another set of muscles related to how our hips work, and we're related to breathing. It's a group of muscles that actually help control our bowel, bladder, and sexual function, and those are our pelvic floor muscles. When we breathe, that group of muscles works along with our diaphragm. As we inhale, they come down. As we exhale, they come up. So there's certain cues we use in exercise historically that don't really help with that idea. We'll talk about more of those as we get into our other exercises. So there's two primary muscles of breathing. It's our diaphragm and what's called our intercostals, those muscles in between each set of ribs. Now, if you find that when you look in the mirror, you see your neck muscles doing a lot of work when you're breathing, it means that you don't really have an efficient breathing strategy. And that's why working on breathing is so important, because you're literally using muscles, and you're using muscles that you use several times a day, several thousands of times a day, because that's how often we breathe. So it's really important that we breathe well and we breathe efficiently. So we're going to break it down into 3 steps. Remember, our breath has to go down, our breath has to go out, and our breath has to go front to back. So we like to break it down so that our brain can find and reestablish that path that it used to have to breathing well. We're always going to breathe in through our nose and out through our nose. It warms, moistens the air before it goes down into our lungs. And it also cleans the air, which is super important as well. So let's go ahead. You're gonna place your hands on your lower abdomen, below the level of your navel, closer to your hip bones. As a mentor of ours says, if your brain can't find the muscle, your brain can't train the muscle. So oftentimes we think about our diaphragm, our pelvic floor muscles. They're not really muscles we think about training. So we're gonna have to use a little bit of tactile feedback, perhaps a little bit of imagery to help sometimes find some of the muscles we're gonna work on during our WoW sessions. So go ahead and close your eyes. Get a sense of where your hands are in that lower abdomen and pelvic area. And you're just gonna gently find that space where you feel your hands. And as you breathe in gently through your nose, just see the breath going down into your hands. It's gonna be a nice, full, gentle exhale. You're gonna let that breath come all the way out. Inhale gently, send that breath down into your hands. Exhale gently and slowly, allow that breath to come all the way out. Inhale again, one last time here. Start that exhale and allow that breath to come all the way out through your nose. No pushing, just allow it to come out. And relax there. You can either now grab your strap, or you're gonna take your hands, ladies, it's gonna be at the level of your bra strap, men, just a little bit lower than the nipple line. Otherwise, you can take your strap and you're gonna wrap it around at that same level. My arms are just gonna rest here. I'm not pulling super hard. It's more of a kinesthetic awareness, or giving me just a little bit of tension into that area so I can feel it, or a tactile cue. So again, I'm bringing my awareness around to the sides of my rib cage as I take my next 3 gentle breaths. I'm going to breathe in gently through my nose, out towards the strap. I'm going to exhale gently but fully, allowing that breath to just gently come out all the way through my nose. Breathing in gently, out to the sides of your rib cage or the strap. I'm going to exhale fully and gently, allow that breath to come all the way out. One last breath here. Start that exhale and allow the breath to come all the way out. Good. Now, where your strap is along the back side, that's where you're going to bring your attention now. So your breath is coming out the back as you inhale and exhale. So again, just gently bringing my awareness to that back side before I even start my breath. Gently breathing in, sending that breath into the strap along the back side. A nice gentle full exhale, allowing that breath to come all the way out. Gently breathing in, connecting into that strap, gently but fully exhaling. One last breath here. Nice, full, gentle exhale. Allow that breath to come all the way out. Good. And relax there. Now, you may have felt some tension start to leave your body, maybe in your back or your shoulders or your neck. So we're going to do a few very gentle isometric exercises, because what we were starting to do is release the tension on those big muscles that make us feel tight and compress us. So there's a set of deeper muscles that are close to our joints that help stabilize them against the pressure of our bigger muscles. So what I'm gonna have you do is you can wrap the strap around the tops of your knees. And your knees are going to be about hip width apart, no wider, no more narrow than that. And again, it's just a gentle tension on your strap. You're not trying to crush anything. What we're going to do is we're going to take in that nice three-dimensional breath we were just working on. As we exhale, I'm just going to imagine as though I'm sending my knees out into the strap. But again, it's an imagine, so that you're not going to really see any movement. You're just imagining you're sending the knees out into the strap. So again, a nice gentle breath in, connecting to the 3 dimensions of your diaphragm. Start that exhale and just imagine sending your knees out into the strap. Nice gentle inhale. Start that exhale and just imagine sending your knees out into that strap as you let that breath come all the way out. One last breath here, gently in. Start that exhale and just imagine sending your knees out into the strap as you let out that full exhale. And relax there. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start some of our upright patterns, and we're gonna go against the wall, so make sure you have a wall space available to you. All right, before we go ahead and we get started on our exercises, we're gonna go ahead and reassess, see how our body feels after our last breathing exercise. So again, start with your feet about hip width apart and just get a sense of, does the weight feel different across your feet now? Do you feel like it's more centered between the 2 feet? Do you feel less pressure in one particular area of either feet or both feet? Do you get a sense, oftentimes people will say, I just feel more grounded as I stand there. Do you have that kind of sense? Good, bringing those feet comfortably together. Your hands are gonna go on your hips, just below your hip bones. Feet will remain flat as you turn your whole body to the right. Come back to center and to the left. Come back to center. As you do this now, do you feel any better quality of the motion? Meaning, does it feel smoother as you turn? And does it feel more equal side to side? Good. Keeping those feet together, let's go ahead and check how you stand now in that single leg stance. You need to be near a wall. So lifting up that left foot and switch sides. And that right foot. And besides just seeing how you feel like you're balancing, get a sense of, do your legs feel easier to lift? Do you feel like there's just less effort or movement to try to get your weight over that individual leg? Good. Just bring those feet comfortably hip width apart, arms at your sides, thumbs facing towards me. You're gonna bring those arms straight up overhead and back down. Do one at a time and just get a sense now, does that arm go up easier? Does it go any further? Is it a little bit more equal side to side as you do that? And then our last one, arms are resting at your side. We're gonna turn to look over that right shoulder with just the head, come back to center, and to the left, come back to center, to the right, back to center, and to the left. And again, as you repeat it one more time, does the quality of the motion feel easier, more smooth? Or do you feel like there's more motion equal side to side as you do that? Now, think about those single leg stance, your hip rotation, your shoulder, your neck, your balance. Which of those did you have the most amount of improvement that you noted as you did that? Because now We're gonna go through our exercises for today. And after each set of exercises, you're gonna check that one assessment. You're gonna check that one assessment and see how you do. And then if you need to, we're gonna go on to the next step. So our first one is going to be squats. We already started talking about a little bit when we were working on our sitting, but we're gonna go into our squat position. And I want you to listen to this setup because we always wanna have a good, clean setup. We don't wanna rush that because we don't wanna start to load our body unless we have our alignment and we have our breathing in place. So we're gonna start with that. Remember, align, breathe, and control through every repetition of every set. So we're gonna start with our squat. We're gonna go against the wall with our hands. It's a supported squat. And it's not because you can't do a squat, but we're training how you're doing the squat for most efficiency. So it's a more effective exercise when we talk about your joint health, your spine health, and just good ergonomics. So when we're gonna set up our squat, I want you to think about the leg or the foot that you struggled with your balance. Right now, my feet are just underneath me, little smaller than hip width apart. So my left leg is the leg is my challenge for standing on. So I'm actually gonna set that foot up on the ground first. I'm gonna put it into my foot tripod. My foot tripod means my weight is equally distributed between the base of my big toe, small toe, and heel. I'm gonna pick up that other foot and then I'm gonna set that one down. So now I should feel like my weight is equal on both my feet. I always wanna make sure that I have a nice long neck, as though somebody's finding this little bump on the back of my head and they're just gently pulling it up towards the ceiling, like this. Not like this, but like this, okay? As I go then, I'm gonna gently place my hands on the wall just in front of my shoulders. As I go into my squat, I wanna think about bending or hinging at that natural crease in the front of my hips. What I don't wanna do is sit down like this, because my natural inclination then is to fall back, so then I have to start to compensate. If I actually bend at my hips where the crease is, it helps keep my weight over my whole foot as I go through my squat. And that's what we're gonna work on. So my feet are established. I have that nice length through the back of my neck. I'm gonna find my nice three-dimensional breath. My hands are out directly in front of my shoulders. I'm going to go into my squat on my next exhale. I'm gonna exhale and then I'm gonna go into my squat, keeping my weight over that foot tripod, hinging or bending at that natural crease in my hips. If I feel like I stop bending through that crease, or my weight needs to shift, or my head needs to drop, or my chin needs to lift, that sounds a little bit like a Dr. Seuss book, I'm gonna start my inhale and come back up. On my next exhale, I'm gonna crease to the front of my hips and sit back into my squat. My weight stays over my whole foot tripod and I still maintain that length through the back of my head. I'm going to inhale and float back up. Exhale to sit back. Inhale to float up. Exhale to sit back. Inhale to float back up. Exhale to float back. Creasing through the front of your hips. Inhale and come back up. One more here. Exhale to sit back. Inhale to come back up. Now there's a couple things you may have noticed I didn't tell you to do. I didn't tell you to squeeze your glutes as you came up. I didn't tell you to lift your chin. Actually, quite the opposite. So if we think about our hip alignment, as I was having you move here like this, we're working on moving through your hips appropriately. So as we come back up, your glutes are working just how they need to, which is they extend you, and that's what you're doing. You're going to an extension, and as you come back up. If I have you squeeze at the top, I then start to drive your thigh bone straight forward into the front of your hips. If you experience that pinching or tightness in the front of your hips, that may be contributed to it if you find that you're a person who works out and does a lot of glute squeezing or butt squeezing at the top. So we're gonna go through and do 4 more squats, and I want you to really think about how do you end your squat. I want you now to come up and just stop before you feel your pelvis come forward. Okay, we're gonna stop right here. So again, let's start right with our setup. Length through the back of the head. So someone's pulling you up this direction. Get your nice gentle breath in. Set down your most challenging foot in your foot tripod, and then set your other foot. Pull your hands out to the wall in front of your shoulders. On your next exhale, you're going to bend at the natural crease in the front of your hips to go down into your squat. Exhale and sit back, keeping the weight over that whole foot, only going down as far as you can maintain the weight on the foot tripod, maintain length through the back of your head, and then start your inhale and float back up. Exhale to sit back. Inhale to come back up. Exhale to sit back. Inhale to come back up. Last one, exhale back. Maintain the weight over that foot tripod. Only go as far as you can do that. Start that inhale and come back up. Good, and relax there. How did you do with not bringing those hips forward? I know it can be a challenge if that's something you've been doing for a really long time. What was that one assessment that you felt a difference with after your breathing? Go ahead and check that now. What does it feel like? I'm checking my shoulders. That left shoulder continues to feel good. However, if you tested something that didn't feel great, I just want you to stand hip width apart, wrap your hands around your rib cage, and you're gonna take 3 gentle breaths into your rib cage. Gently breathing in. Gentle exhale, allow that breath to come all the way out. Nice gentle breath in through the nose, send it out into your hands. Start that exhale and let that breath come all the way out. One last breath here. Start that exhale and allow that breath to come out. Good, reassess how you're feeling. That should have started to put you back on track to where you were after you got done with our breathing exercise. Now, our next exercise is still going to be at the wall because we're training the new way that we do some exercises. We're going to go into what's a split squat. I want you to watch my setup first and really listen to the instructions on this one. If you're a person who struggles with balance, this is a great place to start working on your balance because you're still on 2 feet. If you can't balance in this exercise, then you probably shouldn't be doing just single leg activities. We want to make sure that you feel stable in these next 2 exercises and that you're really using your body appropriately. So we're always going to start with our alignment, length from the back of my head. I'm going to get my nice breath in. My hands are going to float out to the wall. And right now my feet are less than hip width apart because I'm going to go into a mini squat. Now remember, my mini squat has to be from that natural crease in the front of my hip. Once I'm here, I'm going to shift the weight onto my left foot, and this is going to be my stationary foot as I do that. I'm going to very gently slide my right foot back, no further than just essentially behind my other foot. Okay, so essentially just a split squat. So I'm going to inhale to come back up. The important thing about this exercise is as I go down, I'm keeping the weight on the forward leg. I'm not shifting my weight back into this back leg, which my heel is off the floor. So let's set that up together. I have my length through the back of my head, I have my gentle breath in. As I exhale, I'm just going to float my hands out to the wall straight from my shoulders. And I'm going to crease through the front of my hips to go into a mini squat. I'm going to transfer my weight to my left leg. I'm going to slide my right leg back. What's really important here is that your hips stay square to the wall and you're not rotating or your hips are sinking down. Okay, so it's an active stance on that forward leg. I have that natural crease. I can probably start to feel my glutes working a little bit. I'm going to start my inhale and come back up. Again, without pushing or slamming my hips forward, I'm coming up tall. I'm going to start my exhale. The weight stays on my forward leg as I hinged into a squat to sit back. Again, it's not about how far I go. It's that I maintain my alignment and my breathing. Inhale to come up. Exhale to go back, keeping the weight on that forward leg for the whole exercise. Inhale to come up. Exhale to go back. Inhale and come back up. If you're feeling this in your knee, make sure that you're sitting back through this hip. Remember, if you need to, put your hand here and bend at the crease. Sit your butt back like you're going to sit into a chair. Start your inhale and feel as though you're just floating back up. One more. Inhale and float back up. Good. Bring that flat leg up and let's reset. Length from the back of your head. Get that nice gentle breath in. As you exhale, float those hands just in front of your shoulders and go into a mini squat. Now the weight is going to be on that right leg. Remember, I creased through the front of my hips to sit my butt back. Weight is on my right leg, sliding my left leg back just a little bit, checking to make sure that my hips are still square to the wall in front of me. I don't look like this. You can see my glutes. I'm going to inhale to float back up, keeping the weight on that forward leg. Start that exhale and sit your butt back. Inhale and float up. Exhale, coming back, bending at that natural crease in the front of your hips. Inhale, then come back up. Exhale to sit back. Inhale to come up. Weight is on that forward leg as you go down. And as you inhale to float back up. Last one. Inhale to float back up. Step up the backwards leg, back leg. Let your arms relax. And go back to your initial assessment that you felt the most amount of change. How does that feel now? Check it a couple times if you're unsure. And now, again, you felt like you lost range of motion or you lost some of that quality of motion. Legs are hip width apart. Wrap your hands around your rib cage and take those 3 gentle breaths in. That is your reset. If you lose range of motion or you lose quality of motion, it doesn't make sense to go into your next exercise. Reset, check again, and then move on. Our next exercise is going to be a step out exercise. I'm going to show you here, but we're going to do it at the wall. I'm always going to have my alignment. I'm going to go for that natural hinge here. I'm going to go ahead and crease there. I have my foot set up. I'm going to start with my left leg as my stationary leg, and then I'm going to step out. It's not about the distance that I step. I'm working the stationary leg. But what I want to make sure as I do this, I don't do this. That I start out good, but then all of a sudden I start to do this. And now I'm standing back here and I'm stepping out. I want to make sure that I stay active over the stationary leg Keeping that pelvis over there, my butt back as I move through. Keeping your hands at the wall to train this exercise helps you keep that weight forward until you can do it better. So let's start at the wall, getting my length from the back of my head. Get that nice breath. Pull those hands to the wall in front of you, just in front of your shoulders. And sit your butt back by bending through that crease in the front of your hips. You don't have to go far. Shift the weight onto your left leg. Make sure you maintain that length through the back of your head and you maintain those hips back. My weight's on my left leg. I'm just gently and just with a small step, I'm stepping out with my right foot. I want to make sure that I maintain my hips forward over top of my stationary leg. Keep a nice even breath as you do this. If you start to feel it in your knee, stand up and reset. Sit back through those hips. Hips are parallel as you do this. Step out. Remember, it's not about the moving leg. It's about the stationary leg, and you should feel it at the bottom of your glutes. If you don't, check your hips that they're square to the wall in front of you, and make sure that you're creased and you're not sitting back into your heel. Your weight should be over that whole foot on the stationary side. Two more. And come on up. Let's reset. Length from the back of the head. Get your breath in. Float your hands to the wall in front of you. Sit your butt back by creasing through that natural crease in the front of your hips. The weight is now going to be on your right leg. Hips are square to the wall in front of you. And gently step out. It's not a big step. Focus on that stationary leg. Your hips are back, but square to the wall. Only move that other leg as far as you can maintain that. Nice even breaths. If you feel like you've lost the position, start over, stand up, get your length in the back of your head. Two more. And come to standing. Go back to your specific assessment and recheck that. Let's go ahead and do a little reset. Standing hip width apart, hands on your rib cage, close your eyes, and gently breathe in through your nose and send that breath out into that rib cage. Start your exhale and let that breath come all the way out. Two more. Last one. Let's go ahead and check all of our assessments. So standing with your feet hip width apart, close your eyes. And where is the weight on your feet now? Again, you're looking for more evenness side to side and less specific pressure into one part of your foot. Good, bring those feet together. Place your hands just below your hip bones. And you're turning your whole body to the right, keeping those feet flat on the floor. And as you do that, you're looking for the quality of that motion. Does it feel smoother and easier? And what is the range of motion that you have side to side? Does it feel more equal? Good. Feet are still relatively together. Let's check your single leg stance now. Standing onto your right leg and lifting up that left. And switch. And switch again. And as you do that, get a sense of your balance. Get a sense of the weightedness or the ease in which your legs come up, and just the amount of motion and effort it takes to get your weight over one leg versus the other. And if you need it, always use the wall. Let's check those shoulders. Bring them up together and back down, and then check them individually. What does the effort feel in your shoulders? What does that range feel like side to side? Does it feel just a little bit easier? And finally, let's check our neck. So our feet are about hip width apart, arms resting at your sides. Turn to look over your right shoulder, come back to center, and the left. And as you do that, what does it feel like? Does it feel a little bit easier, a little bit more equal side to side? And what does the overall quality of motion feel like as you do that? So today we talked about sitting. Make sure that you are sitting on the broadest or widest part of your pelvis, which is going to be those sits bones. Kind of seems simple. They're called sits bones. We should be sitting on them. So make sure that you're doing that. Make sure you're sitting up on your sits bones whenever you have to sit. If that's in the car, if that's at your desk, if that's on the couch, I know, which is a hard one. But if you struggle with low back pain, this is priceless for you to add to your posture. Breathing, we looked at our breathing. Breathing is so important for so many reasons, and we'll continue to talk about that. Make sure you're doing a daily practice of breathing. Just go through that small sequence we just did, 1 to 2 times a day. It can be life-changing. Finally, we talked a lot about our alignment when we're doing our exercises. We steered away from those common cues of squeeze your glutes, pull in your abs. All of these require max muscular effort to do a simple task like squatting, which we do all day long, to sit in the chair, to sit on the toilet, to sit in the car. I would never want you to always hold everything in to do a simple movement like a squat. We looked at our split squat, which is very similar to what it takes when we walk, what it takes when we work on balance. We started to put that weight in the whole foot. We started talking about really bending through the front of our hips when we do things like squatting. You should have felt a lot of what we did today in that lower part of your glute. For those of you who are looking for a little extra lift in the backside, it's a great exercise for that as well. A little extra bonus bang for your buck on this one. Whenever you're exercising, always remember, exercise when done well. You're using your alignment, you're using your breathing, and you're controlling those things throughout the exercises should never make you tighter. When you exercise listening to your body, then you will feel better. You shouldn't need a stretching session after your workout. Always use breath work if you're going from set to set and checking something feels tighter. Always just take a stop, take a few breaths, and reset your system so that when you go into the next exercise or the next set, you can best align and continue to breathe well while you perform that next set of exercises. I hope this helped you and served you well today. This is your workout of the week. It's your WoW session. Practice it, practice it, practice it. It will continue to get easier. Listen to the cues. They're different than what we'd say about when exercise would be traditional. They will serve you, but it really requires your effort and your consistency. So this is Janice Maddock with Integrative Movement Institute and the Integrative Movement System. If you have any questions about any of these exercises or assessments, make sure you talk to your local integrative movement specialist. If you don't have one in your area, be sure to reach out to us at support@discoverimi.com. Thanks so much, and I wish you a great week.